Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Hunt, Senior Project Management Instructor here at StormWind Epic Live, and I'm super psyched this week because I just rolled out 4 brand new classes that fall under the leadership category of the Project Management Talent Triangle, which is what all people certified through the Project Management Institute, specifically the PMP, need to maintain a certain amount of professional development units in 3 different categories. Leadership being one of them. So this is just a short snippet of one of the classes that rolled out this week, which has to do with considerations of culture on a cross-cultural virtual team, and just fascinating information that's eye-opening for we project managers who may very well be doing business with other countries or having virtual team members that live someplace else. And so as we go through and we start talking about the history of context and culture, there's actually an anthropologist, Edward T. Hall, who wrote a book in 1976 called Beyond Culture. And he actually coined the phrase after the study of high context cultures versus low context cultures. And even though everybody's different, I don't like to put anybody into a category or a box, there are some eye-opening types of things to keep in mind and how culture drives business around the world. So very first thing we want to take a look at is what's the difference? What countries fall under the high context cultures? Well, as you can see, we've got Africa, Brazil, China, France, Greece, India, Italy, Ireland, Japan, Korea, and so on. And you can see the list of all of the countries that are involved in what's called high context types of culture, unwritten rules and ways of doing business. Whereas if you look at a low context culture, allotment of countries, we're talking about Australia, Holland, Canada, Britain or the UK, Germany, and America, amongst other countries around the world. So we've got high context and low context broken down by country. But what exactly does that mean? While you take a look at this chart here, there's a breakdown about communication by context and what the differences are between the high and low context cultures. If you've got a high context culture, they're indirect and implicit messages, whereas in low context cultures like the United States, we're more direct, simple, clear messages. In the United States and other countries in that low context category, like doing one thing at a time, even though we're expected to multitask, high context cultures are more likely to do so. Low context cultures, like the United States, we're more reliant on written communication, a lower use of nonverbal cues or signals. Not that we're not using nonverbal communication, because we are. It makes up 55% of overall communication. But in high context cultures, there's more of a reliance on the message being delivered nonverbally. So if you've got a virtual team member, it's going to be better to have one of those video chat meetings so that you can try and read the body language. So as you look down here, short-term versus long-term relationships, in the low context, schedules are more important than the relationship, whereas relationships are more important than the schedules. So as you look at the comparative approach, you might have recognized managing global teams that there are some differences in how communication occurs. If you are a low context country, like the United States, working with folks in high context cultures, these are some of the things that you might be experiencing. Misunderstandings when exchanging information, the impression of a lack of information, large amounts of information presented in nonverbal manners, and there is an emphasis on long-term relationships and being loyal. There are also unwritten rules that those that live in that high context type of country take for granted, but that we may not be privy to in a low context country. There are shorter contracts because less information is required, and a lot of that is built based on relationships. If we flip the script, we've got high context countries working with we in the United States or other low context countries. They might be feeling that all meaning is explicitly provided in the message itself, and extensive background information and explanations are provided verbally to avoid misunderstandings, but that's the opposite of the understanding of more of a high context culture. People tend to have short term relationships and follow rules and standards very closely, as well as having contracts that are maybe longer and much more detailed. So you can see that there is a definitive gap between how businesses and relationships are developed on an organizational level, depending on the country that you live in. So hopefully you got some good information from this, or just something to think about. And like I said, it's a snippet of one of the leadership classes that we have here at StormWind Studios. So if you're interested, please give us a call, especially if you're trying to maintain certification for your PMP. So hopefully you enjoyed it.